My name is Sohag Nafis Saleh. I am a principal teaching fellow within the School of Medicine. I used to be a flair bartender, and that was kind of like, throwing around drinks and stuff. I don't know, for those of you who are older, you might remember Tom Cruise in Cocktail, but I wasn't quite as good as that. But yeah, that's what I used to do at one point in my life. Okay, if I was describing myself to someone, I would describe myself as British Bangladeshi. Quite often people think that because you're ethnic, you have a very different lifestyle, you have very different interaction with your family, but I don't really think there are huge differences, really. I suppose there's a difference between culture and religion. Quite often they go hand in hand, and I suppose that's the big thing I want to know, that it's not the same thing, I suppose. So you can be cultural without necessarily being religious, and just because of someone is of a particular descent, it doesn't mean that they are a particular religion. Yeah, in my professional career, the things that I've made me proud of primarily to do with I don't know, the way people respond. We have this thing in teaching, or all kind of lectures. We get soul feedback, so the students write comments on what they thought of your lecture. So it's feedback, and it can be quite brutal, because when you're standing there in front of 300 people, and that for all intents and purposes they are judging you. Usually, what you get is about 5, 10, 15 comments, because the participation rates vary quite a lot. But for some really bizarre reason, this year there was a lot of comments. Usually you will get less than half a page. On this particular occasion, I had over 3 pages of comments, and every single one of them was overwhelmingly positive. I mean, it was just incredible, and I felt like crying, because it was like, wow, I didn't know that people felt that way about me. And I remember I actually phoned my mum, and I sent her a copy via email and said, this is what the students here think of me. And that was I just remember feeling very emotional. One's whole self is quite often hidden from everyone, and I don't think that's necessarily just culturally. I think with any kind of job, you need to remain professional. So the main barriers for me bringing my whole self, I suppose, are not really cultural barriers, are more kind of to do with professionalisms. Yeah, I don't really think that much about my ethnicity anymore. When I go into work, I don't think, I don't think, I'm a Bangladeshi person doing this job. The only real occasions that I think about myself ethnically is when I'm in slightly uncomfortable situations, when I'm in areas where I look very different to other people. And so I suppose historically I've always seen it as surrounded by negativity. I'm not ashamed of my ethnicity, but I'm not as proud of it as I suppose I should be. So it's kind of shifting the lens for my own personal view from something negative to something more positive about my own personal ethnicity, I suppose.